Hey guys, so I have this lovely scouting video for you right before we get back into 5v5. I figured I would put this together because I was talking about how I scouted with a couple of people and what I did surprised them. So I thought this would be an interesting take on it. I'm sure some of you have heard about this before and how to do this, but if you haven't, hopefully it's helpful. I'm going to preface all of this by saying I'm not super competitive in PvP. I go out there and I try. I obviously don't like losing as much as the next person, but I'm not heavily focused in PvP. So this has been what I've been doing kind of since the changes have taken effect with crystals moving to Grand Arena. And I found that this has really helped me, one, scout relatively quickly, depending on my opponent. But I'm able to kind of make a game plan and tailor it to that person pretty easily doing it this way. And I figured this would be fun to talk about. So, that being said, let's look at how I do it. It's pretty quick, but I found that it's been really effective. So, let's have a look. Okay, so guys, so the first thing that I do is I pull up the HotUtils compare to my opponent. I do this with every single person, and at the start of the Grand Arena week, I actually pulled the compare for my whole bracket as well, and I run the bracket each round so that I can see if my opponents in the bracket, even if I'm not facing them, I can kind of get a gauge on whether or not they're full clearing based off how many points they're going up, and it lets me see if they're struggling or not, basically, or if they choose to even engage, basically. Okay, so the first thing I look at here, and it might sound weird, I look at the guild GP. I find that this is a pretty important factor because depending on what their own GP is, if they are, so say 8 million GP and he was in a 250 mil guild, I would say that he's probably a pretty casual player. So it just gives me a vibe check on them based off how much GP of a guild that they're in, basically. And then I usually tend to ignore the season status, except for that bracket one that I'm looking at. I don't really pay too much attention to it here. I don't pay a lot of attention to offensive wins. Like, these are all things that I find that get really nitpicky once you're getting into really crazy competitiveness, and I just want to kind of get a gauge on what I think they're gonna do and keep it relatively simple. So I usually focus pretty much in here and then lower down. So I look at our summaries and kind of see where we match up, which one of us has more Omicrons, and then I will look on their .gg page to find out which Omicrons they have, which I can show you. And then just looking at their gear, I have a look at the mods to kind of see where we match up. I don't look at the relic levels too much just because of where I am in the bracket with Grand Arena. This doesn't really affect me a ton right now. Everyone's kind of around the same spot. I'm not really facing people that are, full Relic 7 rosters, so it's not a huge deal. Then I will go down and I look at the Galactic Legends. So this is where I spend a good amount of time just in this graphic in general, because I'm looking to see obviously which ones I have versus that he doesn't, and vice versa. But I'm also looking to see how they're modded. So right here with this opponent that I faced, I knew his C wasn't modded with enough health, and I also knew that his Jedi Master Luke wasn't modded for protection. So that gives me information right away before I even go to look at my scouting report. And I've already gotten that, and I can kind of get a gauge and then move forward. And then I go for a little bit further down the list here. You can actually add your own characters to your HotUtils compare check. There is a command for it that you can DM the bot and add whichever character or ship. I can't remember it off the top of my head, so if you remember it and comment it, I will pin it. But you can add whatever you see fit. So if you're worried about if they have cat or whatever the deal is, you can add characters here. So obviously I've added Starkiller and the TIE Echelon. And then it just shows you key characters that HotUtils has put in already, and I kind of have a glance at those a little bit. And then I look at obviously these two ships at Executor and Negotiator just to have a look. I don't spend a ton of time in the key characters. I'm mainly looking, like I said, at the Galactic Legends, my personal list. And then I do look at the ships, mainly being, does he have Relic 9 on Executor? That's pretty much where I'm going. So that's what I look at on the HotUtils compare mostly. Once I've done that, then I hop over to their .gg page and I have a look at their history. So I do everything in the browser. You can do it through OmegaBot as well. OmegaBot pulls all of its information from .gg, so you're getting the same info either way. I just find that it's easier for me to view it this way, and I know some people are better at viewing it in a graph or however you want to look at it. So anyway, okay, so the first thing that I do is you obviously are going to find a season for what you're scouting. So I went to the last 5v5 and I always look at defense first. I personally like to look at a round where they've lost. Not necessarily the first time, but I pay attention to that because usually that would be the case, which I'll show you. If we look at this one here, we're going to have to zoom back in. So the reason being that I look at defense first is I look for a pattern. So I automatically look, I don't care what their opponent used to beat it with. I don't care about, what attack order was at this point. I'm solely looking for patterns. So right away, I see that he's set Qui-Gon. I see that he has set, so obviously Qui-Gon again because of the loss, but JTR's there, Maul's there. I'm just quickly browsing. I'm not actually paying attention to whether or not he was full cleared. I'm not paying attention to the order or any of that. I'm solely looking at the teams here. So Zam, Jedi Master Kenobi, Kylo, Grievous, pretty straightforward. This guy, because he didn't full clear, he didn't get to his ships. So I don't know what he's got for ships. And that's why I like to look for a loss. So if I go and I look here, he also didn't full clear. But I'm going to get a little bit more information this way. So like I said, I'm looking for that pattern. Qui-Gon again. Maul again. Zam lead bounty hunters again. So I know chances are he's going to let his defenses roll. JTR again, right? These are all teams that we saw in the last round. So I know that he usually, or based off on these two, assuming it's the same in the third, I can make the assumption that he's going to set the same defense continuously. He did get to ships, so I get a little bit more info here. I also see Kylo, and this was really important because my last opponent didn't get to ships. This also tells me my last opponent probably didn't clear the front zones, and Kylo is either in the bottom front or hiding in the back, one or the other. And then I go and look at the third round. Again, same idea for the pattern. Maul, Mon Mothma, Phasma. So I'm seeing the exact same teams. Different kill order, so this tells me that I'm going to have to pay attention to the kill order to determine what I'm going to expect to see either in the bottom front or the top front zones. But we do get more information this way. So now that I know, though, that he's setting the same teams and they're rolling over, what I actually like to do a lot, I'll go back to round 1 and I want to see what he uses on attacks. And this is where I have found the most information when I've been scouting my opponents. And I think a lot of the times, especially before Grand Arena changed to have crystals in it, people focused heavily on what their opponents set on defense when they were scouting, which is very valid and it makes sense. You want to make sure you have counters. You want to know if they're going to go, really heavy defense. Are they going to cheese you? All these kinds of things obviously are important. But I found with the attacks, I'm able to kind of, I don't want to say manipulate, but I like to try to trap. And if you can try to draw out the right counters based off what your opponent is doing, chances are you can stop them from clearing your back zone or something like that. And that could be the difference between you winning and losing. So Obviously, he's using Bad Batch here on Grievous. That's important to know if you set Qui-Gon on defense. You could potentially draw out Bad Batch. I'm just spitballing, obviously, here. This is important to me, though. He's using Jedi Master Luke against Supreme Leader Kylo. This tells me that he doesn't use the Jedi Knight Luke, Jedi Knight Reverend counter to Kylo. So he doesn't try to off-meta. He's using a Galactic Legend. And if I continue to do this in his attack history, which I will, and I see that this is a pattern, I know that I can draw out a Galactic Legend if I set my Kylo, right? So that's something that is useful to me to have that information. So obviously we've got Qui-Gon here. He used Sisters, Mon Mothma, Malik, tried to Wampa this Akbar team. Here, though, I can see he's using his Lord Vader against Kenobi. So that's another thing that I know would draw out a Galactic Legend. He uses CLS on Gas. That's another thing that I know to draw out a CLS team. Here, he used his C on Darth Revan. So that's another bit of information that I have, that if I can make him waste a Galactic Legend on a non-Galactic Legend team and hide and create a trap for him that he doesn't have these counters, you are potentially stopping him, right, from getting that clear. So I go through and I look at the attack history here, and then I go and I look again for the next round just to see if there is a consistency. So Wampa on Grievous this time, so that's different. C on Jedi Master Luke, that's different, but also important to know, like, that you can draw C out a couple different ways for him. But here we are, Jedi Master Luke on Kylo again. That's important to know. Lord Vader on Lord Vader, that's important to know. Like, these are things that you definitely want to see, and then that way you take that information and you can tweak your defenses just to kind of create a little bit of a trap, and hopefully works in your favor. And then obviously ships are huge. It's really important to know what they're doing there, especially with Executor. Are they keeping it for offense? Are they mirroring? Are they doing a burner? All of this kind of fun information. So let's look at his third round, since we looked at 3 rounds of defense. Bad Batch on Grievous. So we know that he's done that before, and that's to be expected. Jedi Master Luke on Lord Vader this time. So that is something that you would know if you have Lord Vader and Kylo. You could potentially make him choose and create a trap. Like, these are really good bits of information to have, to be honest with you. And then Lord Vader on Rey. So again, you know that he's not doing anything off meta there. You also know that he doesn't use C-Wat on Rey necessarily until I guess he lost and then did it. But my point is that you're seeing like these patterns and you're able to decipher from there if it's worthwhile for you to change your defense, if it's worthwhile for you to even just shift where your teams are placed, and see if that can draw out the right counters so that you can potentially trap them. So the other thing that you can do, and I don't know, I'm assuming most people know this, but like maybe you don't. So if you look at their defense, so here it tells you what time the attack happened at. So you're able to decipher, these are all in order. So you're able to know, usually most people attack the front bottom zone first. So you would be able to theorize that Maul, Mon Mothma, Phasma, and Geos would be in the front bottom zone. And then you're basically guessing between what's in the top and what's in the back. And then obviously you've got your ships. Most people, I believe, in my experience at least, and from what I've seen, tend to go front bottom first and then front top zone, back zone, and then ships, just to make sure that they do get to ships. So you would theoretically be able to tell that the first 4 teams are in the front bottom and then the next 4 teams are in the top. and you can kind of piece together their defense that way. I also like to look to see what time they like to attack at. Are they sporadic, which looks like maybe a little bit, or do they sit and attack right away? So you can see like this guy's kind of a little bit all over the place, like 235, 240, 245. And then the next round, 230. So relatively the same. But round 3 was 150 and then 750. So kind of all over the place. It just gives me an idea to know when I'm going to expect things. So I look at that. And then the only other thing that I will check, everything else I usually will scout in game, to be honest with you. But I just like to look and see what Omicrons they have. So I want to know if they're territory war, if they are Grand Arena, what to expect here. And then that way I can plan accordingly, especially like if I know if Zam is going to be on defense and he's got the Omicron on Zam, that's a flag for me that I'm going to have to keep something for that team specifically, right? So that's pretty much what I do in terms of the history. Like I said, I feel like a lot of people focused on scouting defense. I think that this will still be relevant after Datacrons come. Obviously, it's going to depend on how we see the information displayed with them, whether Datacrons equipped to a squad will show up in the history or not. Hopefully that's the case, because that's more information for us to have, and the more information, better, in my opinion. But I do think it will still be relevant because you're still able to tell, what kind of counters you can draw out from a player, and hopefully you're able to prevent them from full clearing. So hopefully that's helpful. That's basically what I've been doing, and I found that it has been the biggest change in my Grand Arena plans, and just kind of how I've been processing things and working on them, but it's also made the most difference. So that being said, thank you everybody for watching. Hopefully you found it helpful. If you did, please let me know. If you didn't, please be nice about it. I'll talk to you next time, guys.